現代な夢の後の何もない世の中じゃそうさ愛しい思いも負けそうになる
Hello everyone, in this episode we're going to be continuing on with the Digimon Adventure Novel English Translation, Chapter 2 from Book 2 with Parts 2 and 3. So this is the middle section of Chapter 2, and then in our 6th part next time we'll be finishing off Chapter 2 of Book 1. Part 2, The Deceptive Mansion. Night was approaching by the time that they reached the foot of the mountain. Everyone thought that they were lucky that Taichi had discovered the house within the forest. All of the children were bone-tired, and even their Digimon, who never appeared to run out of energy, as long as there was enough food, seemed to be drooping on their feet after their evolutions. When they arrived at the house, they found that it would be more appropriate to call it a mansion or a small castle. It was a brick, European-styled house that was 3 stories high and would not have looked out of place in a movie. From their vantage point below, even the windows on the attic floor looked as though they had rooms. Opening the heavy front door, they stepped into a large hallway that was lit brightly by a magnificent chandelier. That much was expected, but what caught them off guard and made them rush restlessly to the dining hall was the smell of delicious food that floated towards them. After eating half-cooked barbecue and washed fruits day in and day out on the island, the freshly cooked food made their eyes widen. It was filled with platters that certainly would not have looked out of place in a movie. There was even a bathroom that was slightly open air and filled with gushing, warm bath water. This public bathhouse was the only place that was so ill-fitted for the surrounding Western architecture. Koshiro's thoughts returned once more to his theme park theory. What was the most baffling was that, despite all of the preparations that must have gone into this warm reception, not a single human figure was in sight. However, the children did not have time to be bothered about that. After filling their stomachs with food that actually looked like food that they were used to, they jumped into the baths to wash out the grime and the sand that clung to the roots of their hair. There were 8 beds total in the large room on the 3rd floor. The sheets were soft and clean, as if they had just been washed, and the beds were big enough for an average adult to fit in them. Each child and their respective Digimon climbed in together to sleep. It was the first time since the 7 children had arrived on the island that they had ever felt this comfortably satisfied. For a while, after they burrowed under the covers, their cheerful conversations continued. "I wonder what Mama and Papa are doing." On Mimi's words, everyone's anxiety returned. "It's been a week, hasn't it, since we've come here?" Taichi said. "I wonder if they really know we're here," Sora said, as if wanting reconfirmation for what Koshiro had speculated earlier. "Well, we can't be sure of that," Koshiro said. "After all, this place is—" Yamato made a loud noise as he dove under his blankets, cutting off Koshiro's words. "Even if we talk about it now, we won't solve anything. We can speculate it to exhaustion, and we still won't be able to figure out how our parents are doing or where they are. Instead of worrying about that, we should sleep so we can be well rested for tomorrow." "Yeah, I agree," Joe said as he took off his glasses and placed them on the bedside. Not even Gomon, or the other Digimon who had been laughing joyfully with them only moments before, could break the heavy silence. "Mama," everyone heard Takeru murmur into his pillow. He might even be crying. That one word shut everyone's mouths, and they quietly pulled the covers over them. Taichi realized something. Yamato knew that Takeru would become sad once they started talking about their parents, so he made everyone put a lid on it before they went any further. As Taichi looked at the 2 blondes sleeping in separate beds next to him, he thought back to when they had arrived at the campgrounds. At first, he hadn't known that these 2 were brothers. For as long as he'd known him, Taichi had always believed that Yamato was an only child. It was only after they had come to the island that he found out the younger boy, unknown to him, was Yamato's brother. It was even later when he learned that their parents had divorced and separated the two to live in different areas. Right after Yamato had told him that, Takeru had been attacked by a dragon Digimon, and Yamato risked his life to save him, acting far more recklessly than anyone would have expected to have acted normally, ending up being the one in danger instead. That was when Gabumon, sleeping next to Yamato now, when he curled up like that, he looked like Ogremon wearing a fur pellet, evolved into a large wolf and... Wait a minute, I think I once asked someone if Yamato had siblings, but they dodged the question. Was it Sora? As he pondered in his thoughts, Taichi felt his eyelids droop heavily as he felt more and more sleepy. He could feel himself about to fade out when he was jolted awake by a voice. "Taichi," Agumon whispered to him, "I have to go to the bathroom." They had to walk down the stairs to get to the bathrooms on the second floor. Taichi waited impatiently for Agumon to finish his business as he stood in the corridor outside connecting to a large hallway. It was strange that the only bathrooms were located here in this grand building, but Taichi was far more concerned about other things at the moment. "Geez, at least go to the bathroom by yourself," Taichi grumbled. He looked down the hallway. A large moon was glittering outside, its moonlight falling through the windows and landing on a painting that hung on the end of the hallway. Huh? Taichi noticed that something about it was different from when they first arrived here in the early evening. Isn't there supposed to be a picture of an angel there? Within the large frame that was bathed in pale light, there had been a painting of an angel kneeling before something while offering up a prayer. He remembered Takeru and Patamon, who had spotted it first, exclaiming that it was a pretty nice picture and gazing at it for a long time. But now that painting was... It's pitch black. Nothing was drawn inside the framed canvas, although light was gleaming on it. It was the darkest black, as if a giant hand had reached in and scooped out a neat, rectangular hole. He tried leaning over the corridor railing to get a better look, but pulled back quickly in alarm. The railing had made a nasty creak under his weight, even though it was made of thick wood and looked stout. Why would it creak as if... But no. Even now the railing was crumbling as though it was rotten. His eyes grown accustomed to the dark, Taichi looked around to find that everything in the mansion was decaying. When the orange light of the evening sun had shone on it earlier, everything seemed to glow, but now the entire place was covered in a thick dust. He could even see the footprints they had left behind in the afternoon. It was as if hundreds of years had passed, ever since that they had entered their bedrooms. They had seen plenty of weird things ever since they had come to the island, but never something like this. It was then that a voice echoed from somewhere within the dark mansion. "It seems you've noticed." The voice sounded as if it was coming from far away, yet, at the same time, Taichi felt it being whispered into his ear. Within its quiet depths, he could feel only evil seeping. If darkness had a voice, it would have surely sounded like this. "If you had slept quietly, you would have died without knowing a thing." "Who's there?" Taichi cried out. The darkness gave no answer. Instead, he heard Agumon voice from inside the bathroom. "Taichi!" There was a sound of a heavy blow that echoed in the hallway. Ogremon had hit open the thick door with a dull thud, his body flying out into the corridor. From inside, Taichi could see the shadow of a large man-shape. Gee! It was the green demon that they had met on Infinity Mountain. Giving his club a light twirl, he smashed the heavy bathroom door to pieces. "Agumon!" Taichi drew Agumon close. Did his small body get beaten by that club? "Evolve, Agumon!" He held out his Digivice, but it gave no reaction. "Taichi, I can't. I don't feel any strength." The green demon was now standing right before his eyes. Taichi had no idea what was going on, but he made a swift decision. He had to go back to his friends. Carrying Agumon in his arms, he turned to run, but immediately stopped. Below the steps to the third floor stood a solid and unflinching shadow. It was Leomon. "The chosen children must die." Leomon drew out his sword. Taichi and Agumon were cut off from both sides in the corridor. "Why can't you evolve, Agumon?" "Nothing came out when I went to the toilet. It's really strange, like I'd never eaten anything." "But you ate so much." That voice from within the darkness spoke again. Everything was an illusion. I'd planned to at least put you to sleep before killing you off. It sounded as if it was coming from the opposite end of the corridor connecting to the hallway. Just as Taishi turned his eyes to take a sharper look inside the depths of the dark hall, the darkness said, "The dream is over." Even as the voice spoke, the roof, the walls, and the floor of the mansion shattered to pieces. Taichi could see the night sky, the forest, and Infinity Mountain all around him. The mansion that had once looked so pleasant now looked as if it had been destroyed. More than hundreds of years ago. Not one part of it was left in mint condition. Taichi was standing in the ruins of the corridor. It wasn't long before Taichi realized that his stomach was grumbling, and his body felt rough with dirt. The food and the baths must have all been an illusion, just like the mansion. It was no wonder that Ogremon couldn't evolve. He didn't have enough energy. The corridor where the voice of darkness had come from only had most of the railing left, hovering at a dangerous balance. With the moonlit forest in the background, a human-shaped shadow stood above the railing. "Who are you?" Taichi glared. The shadow looked as if it was turning everything black. What made it clear that the shadow was not a human were the extremely long arms that were folded in front of him, and the bat-like wings that sprouted on his back. His mouth opened from underneath his black mask, and then he said, "My name is Digimon, one is who entrusted with fulfilling the mission of darkness." Slowly, he unfolded his long arms and spread them upwards. Taichi could hear screams coming from the bedroom. With a gasp, he turned to see beds flying above him from the air. Yamato and the others woke up to an odd sound that they had never heard before. When they realized that it was the sound of the mansion's roof and walls disappearing, the starry sky above them was already widening into a sight before their very eyes. When they tried to get off their beds, they saw that even the floor was full of holes. A wrong step, and they might break through the floor and fall down from 3 stories high. As they wondered over what to do, this time, their beds suddenly rose in the air. As they fastened themselves to the bedposts, the beds tilted diagonally and moved at odd angles. It was as if they were riding a jet coaster without seatbelts, and it took all of their might to prevent themselves from being shaken off. "Takeru!" Yamato shouted, as if he was trying to identify from the wild dance of the beds which one belonged to his brother. Takeru was clinging onto his bed with all his might. "I'm okay, brother!" Even Patamon, with the ability to fly, appeared to be helpless against the bed's speed. He was also hanging on for dear life. "Why can't you evolve?" they heard Sora shout. Below, they could see the remains of the mansion, where they had been sleeping peacefully only minutes before. In one part of the corridor was the green demon, Leomon, and an unknown black demon. All of them surrounding Taichi and Ogremon. Leomon was approaching Taichi, with his sword held up above his head. There was nothing that the other children could do for them. "Taichi!" Just when it appeared as if Taichi would be cut to pieces, something changed. Yamato saw a dazzling light suddenly pierce the darkness, but he couldn't tell that it was coming from the blue device in Taichi's hand. The next change that occurred was what stirred in Leomon when the light reached him. The hand holding his sword stopped swinging in midair. He began to shake his head back and forth, as if he was trying to shake something off. Something black began to rip out of his back. "It's a gear! It's just like I thought! Leomon's being controlled by a gear!" Gabumon yelled. Yamato still couldn't believe that something as simple as that had brought Leomon back to normal. But when the light stopped, Leomon faced the black shadow that looked like a demon. Drawing his right hand, which did not hold the sword, towards him into a fighting posture, Leomon punched the air before him with a loud yell. From his fist flew out a mass of scorching hot air that was shaped like a lion's head. These bits of hot air surged towards the demonic shadow with a ferocious roar. The demon spread his wings and flew into the air to avoid it. The railing that he had been standing on disintegrated along with the corridor that it had been connected to. The flying beds abruptly straightened, as if someone's control had been lost over them, and they began to move smoothly through the air. All 8 beds separated into different directions. Takeru's bed flew further and further out of Yamato's sight. One of the 2 empty beds made a sudden nosedive, as if it lost its sense of direction. From the corner of his eye, Yamato saw that it was headed towards Taichi, and just when he thought it was going to pass by him, Leomon grabbed both Taichi and Ogremon and threw them roughly onto the bed. Without losing altitude, the bed continued to fall towards water level. Leomon saved Taichi. That was the last of what Yamato could see. He did not know the result of the fight left between Leomon, the green demon, and the black demon. The children's bed continued to fly towards the night sky until they dropped into separate areas of land. Part 3. The Village of Beginnings. The long night finally broke into dawn. Takeru and Patamon kept still in the dark to hide themselves before the light arrived. The bed that they had been riding on had fallen into a river and smashed into pieces of driftwood, no longer able to fly through the skies again. That was when they had found there had been a black gear fixed within the bed's frame. "I wonder how my brother and everyone else is doing." "I'm sure they're okay," Patamon replied. "They have my friends with them." Among the group of 7 Digimon, Patamon was the only one who had yet to evolve into a stronger form like everyone else. Whether Patamon's words were very persuasive or not, Takeru wasn't sure. But when the boy thought back, he remembered that he had been in a situation almost like this only a mere week ago, when he had been all alone and first met Tokomon. At that time, the Digimon had been whiter, plumper, and hadn't looked very dependable, yet Takeru had not felt the least bit worried. However, in the first few days when the Digimon with the black gears had attacked the group, none had specifically come after these two. That difference could end up having a bigger significance than they'd thought. When it got lighter, Takeru and Patamon began to walk while keeping very alert to their surroundings. Without a specific destination in mind, they decided in the meantime that they should head towards the distant silhouettes of Infinity Mountain. By the afternoon, they had arrived in a village whose ground was as soft as a cushion. There were very few places on this island that could be called a village. Of course, whenever they did reach a village, none of them housed humans, only Digimon. However, this village was particularly restricted on what kinds of Digimon lived in it. "The Village of Beginnings? Is that what this place is called?" Takeru asked the only Digimon there that was larger than Patamon. This Digimon was a fur-covered mammal, which was as large as a dog, with androgynous features. What made it clear that this creature was not a normal animal but a Digimon was because of his many split-ended tails, and the fact that he could speak in human language. "Yeah, that's right. All the Digimon on this island are born in this village. That's why it's called the Village of Beginnings. I'm Ogremon. I defend this place." Ogremon showed them around the village. The buildings that were surrounding it were made from soft, fluffy material with round corners that made them look like a large, baby-proof toy. All of the Digimon who lived there were small, ranging in size from a rice ball to an average-sized melon. The only Digimon here are baby levels who had just been born. Once they evolve one level, they leave. But before that, someone has to protect them, feed them, and do all kinds of things to take care of them. I'm the one holding that responsibility right now. Within the center of the village was another building made of a different substance. Within the round structure that looked similar to a silo were large multicolored eggs the size of an ostrich's that looked as if they had been painted into Easter eggs. "This is a Digi-egg. All Digimon are born from this." "Who laid this egg? A really big Digimon?" His ears twitching at Takeru's question, Ogremon looks perplexed for the first time. "No, I don't think so. It just appears here before I even notice it. That's just how things are with Digi-eggs." Right after he said that, one of the Digi-eggs began to tremble softly. "Oh, it's about to hatch," Ogremon explained as he rushed over to it. The Digi-egg's shell cracked neatly in two, and a small Digimon appeared from inside. The shell disintegrated into small fragments for an instant, which fell away and turned into a cradle, after the particles gathered underneath the infant Digimon. There, you're hungry, aren't you? I'll get you some food right now." After asking Takeru and Patamon if they could watch over the baby, Ogremon ran off. Takeru oogled the newborn Digimon. It looked soft and round like a marshmallow. Although it was shaped differently, Takeru felt his breath taken away, as if he was looking at a human baby or that of a normal animal. "Were you born here too, Patamon? Well, I don't remember what happened when I was a baby. Do you remember, Takaru? Takaru's earliest memory abruptly came back to him. His older brother gently shaking the rattle and playing with him. But why his brother? The next memory that came to him was when he was in kindergarten. His parents were arguing loudly about something. His brother went into the room that they were in and spoke words he couldn't hear. Both of his parents became quiet. A little while after that, he began to live alone with his mother. From then on, his brother always had a broody look on his face, even though the brother in his earliest memory was smiling happily. No, I guess I don't remember. He decided not to tell Patamon about it. The main dish that was served in this village was the fish that Ogremon caught in a nearby stream. With just one electric shock that he released from his tail feathers, he could gather a large number of all the fish at once. After the fish was grilled, both Takaru and Patamon ate their fill. Neither of them realized that they were the most fortunate pair. The other children in Digimon fought for their lives, as they were either attacked by Digimon that were controlled by black ears or chased by a green demon. But by the time the sun began to sink over the horizon, the hand of darkness was already creeping towards the village of beginnings. Atop a cliff that overlooked the village, there stretched a long man-like shadow with the large mane of a lion. The shadow unsheathed his sword with his left hand. The blade glittered as the sunlight reflected on it. Patamon saw the light sparkling out of the corner of his eye. When he looked, he saw Leomon dashing down the side of a cliff so fast it looked like he was sliding. "Takaru, run!" Patamon still could not evolve to the next level, and there wasn't a chance that he could win against Leomon as he was now. They also couldn't endanger the baby Digimon in this village. All they could do right now was flee. "Hurry!" Finally understanding the situation, Takaru ran after Patamon. The two of them hurriedly left the village to hide in the forest. But whenever they turned to look, they could still see Leomon chasing after them. He had already leapt down to the ground level and was racing towards them. At this rate, he'd catch up to them any second. It was at that moment a long line of blue fire shot out from within the forest. The flames slipped through the trees, past Takaru and Patamon, until they reached all the way to Leomon. Even Leomon had to stop to keep from being burned by the rush of flames. "Takaru!" Yamato's voice could be heard from the direction where the fire came. A blue wolf, Garurumon, was rushing out of the forest at full speeds toward them. Straddled on his back was Takaru's older brother, Yamato. "Brother!" Yamato jumped down from Garurumon's back in front of Takaru and Patamon. "I'm sorry for getting here so late, Takaru." Having decelerated only enough for Yamato to get down, Garurumon dug his claws into the earth and shot towards the edge of the forest, straight for Leomon. Leomon brandished his sword, which Garurumon repelled with his tough fur. Jumping back to gain distance, Leomon got back into position. The two glared at each other, but before either of them could make a move, Taichi's voice called out this time. "Yamato!" From his position on Greymon's shoulder, who was approaching from the village of beginnings, Taichi held up the blue device over his head. "Use the light!" Yamato remembered what he had seen from the top of his flying bed yesterday, and immediately understood what Taichi meant. Running forward, with his own blue device in hand, he held it as he approached Leomon. As he drew closer to Leomon, the liquid crystal display of the device began to glow. Taichi got down from Greymon's shoulder, and also advanced on Leomon. The lion Digimon tried to avoid the light shining from their devices by closing his eyes and shielding his face with his arm. But the quick movements he had shown previously had become much slower. When Taichi and Yamato finally thrust their devices directly at Leomon, light fell from all over Leomon's body, extending upwards to the height of a 3-story building. "That light!" Mimi shouted, pointing. Mimi and Koshiro had luckily been able to meet up, and were riding on top of a giant beetle, Kabuterimon, that was flying in the skies, which was about 3 kilometers above the village. "Groar!" Leomon's mane stood on end as he let out a pained roar. The black gear began to rise out from within his back. His screams grew even deeper as the gear came out completely and fell to his knees. The gear ascended the skies lazily, trembled within the light, and was smashed to little pieces. The beam of light disappeared at the same moment when Leomon's eyes returned to normal, but it was enough time for Kabuterimon to pinpoint their location. So that was parts 2 and 3 of chapter 2 of book 1 of the Digimon Adventure Novel. Again, thanks to Onkei for the English translations, and I hope that everyone's enjoying listening to the audio version of those translations. So, link the description where you can find all of Onkei's translations, and our Redbubble's also linked in the description, and you can get more than just shirts there too. You can contact us and stay updated. You can email us at LostinTranslationmon@gmail.com, or you can comment on this episode or message us on our website, LostinTranslationmon.com. You can follow us on @TranslationMon on Twitter, and you can find us on LostinTranslationmon on Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. We have a discussion thread on With the Will and a Reddit thread in the Digimon subreddit. And if you want, you can even leave us a review on any podcast listening service that you use. That'd be cool. And, of course, we have the website, vote and polls, check out our release schedule, and check out our blog posts. You can donate to our Patreon from as little as $1 a month, and that gets you access to a listed Discord server, but there are higher levels with more rewards such as notes, early episodes, and more. And thank you to our supporters on Patreon, Joe, Anime Guy, who's Anime Guy Kurosaki 1 on YouTube, Stephen Reeves, who is Wildwing64 on Archive of Our Own, Kaidawashi, Chisai, who you can follow on Tumblr at Chisai236, Kyle, Tom, Lizmet, who is Elecmon on Tumblr, Nicholas, Sam, Spiral, Keith from A Computer Podcast on the Internet, Magnus, Annabelle, Hemi, Alex, and Luke. You can also make a one-off donation on my PayPal, which can be found linked in the description. It's paypal.me/Ogremon. You can also donate to my Ko-fi, which is ko-fi.com/Edra. And see you guys next time. Bye!